voice actors of Anime Midwest.
So I don't know why they put us on all together, because they know we're gonna be up to nonsense.
That's why.
We're definitely extra.
We three have been hanging out quite a bit over this weekend.
Yeah.
Trouble.
Been great.
Yes.
And we've had a lot of fun. So we are going to get started, but we will allow people to continue to trickle in as they
say.
And then once it hits 11, slam the door shut. Everybody's locked in.
No further admittance.
I was the responsible one. I went to my room at 3:10
a.m.
And I just got word that they didn't go to bed until 5.
I was playing Harry Potter in the lobby. And it just seemed more important at the time.
What character were you?
Well, oh no, I'm playing Harry Potter on my phone, so I'm technically... well, no, it's like Pokemon Go, but with wizards.
But with wizards.
And it's the bleeping best.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to bleep that. This is not an 18 up.
It's a wizard phone battle.
It's just, yeah, man, I fight vampires and spiders, pixies.
Well, for those of you who don't know the more of us, I'm Brad Jackson. I am an actor out of Dallas and voicing Oolong the Pig on Dragon Ball, DBZ, Dragon Ball Super, King Cold,
keep going.
Shade from Borderlands 2, Tales from the Borderlands, Hannibal from One Piece. I mean, there's just a list. If you want the full Monty on my character list, you can go to behindthevoiceactor.com, look up Brad Jackson, and find all of my goodness there. Nile Pudding from Fairy Tale, and Trucker from DBZ. I saw that the other day at a panel. We were going through my bio, and I discovered that I was a trucker at one point on DBZ. So I played a bunch of I'm just 22 years in the business, so I've played quite a myriad of characters.
Hi, my name is Margaret McDonald, and I have been voice acting for about 7-8 years now, and I work mostly in Houston and Dallas. You might have heard me in Girls in Ponzer, Love to Nubio and Other Delusions, Tomical Market, Citrus, Death March to a Parallel World, Rhapsody. Most recently, I was in Seven Seeds, and funnily enough, I have something that relates to that, because I played a child in one episode, and then I play like one of the supporting characters, but on Anime News Network, they list child first.
Yeah.
Because, obviously that one's the more important.
In case of emergency, women and children first.
Yeah, that's true. There you go.
My name is Marcus Stimac. I'm an actor and director over at Funimation. You may know me from such shows as Ghost in the Shell, Attack on Titan, One Piece, Fairy Tale, My Hero Academia, Dragon Ball Super, Assassination Classroom, many other shows. Yes, if you want the full list, you can check us out on the BVTA and also on Anime News Network or IMDb. Some of the shows I have directed on is One Piece, the One Piece Heart of Gold special, Dare Men of the Sky, Chaos Child, and Show by Rock Season 2.
So his entire list is something that I would say just to be like, blowing smoke. Be like, oh yeah, I'm in all these great titles, and he's like actually in them. And I was like, oh, that's my list for when people ask me on the street. They're like, what are you in? I'm like, oh, all of this. And they're like, really? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Well, Brad and I have had a lot of great opportunities being in Dallas, living close to Funimation,
Right.
Working locally, developing good work history. And for those of you who don't know,
Most of it, good work history.
Yeah, mostly a good report. Funimation is out in Flower Mound, and we live in Dallas, and that's about like 40 minutes north of Dallas.
It's kind of Flower Mound's like halfway between Dallas and Fort Worth.
Yeah.
It's,
I live in Houston, so it's like
she's
4
really
hours
far away from it.
away from me.
But actors do travel. So.
No.
Half car, will travel. It's Texas. What do you expect?
We did want to open it up and see if any of you would like to ask any questions, field some questions from the audience. Anyone? Right here, great, excellent.
For any of the projects that you've worked on, was there any type of particular dialogue that you found, I guess, most difficult to deal with? And it's like, okay, so in terms of like something's not working with translation, so it's like, okay, well, let's see if we can try to add with it, and maybe it actually works out better at it.
Well, I would say there's a lot of situations where you may be called upon to play characters who are creatures, who don't have a set language, or sometimes you are going off of just a parentheses of funny adjectives where they're like, astonished pig man, or, you know.
What would that be?
What, astonished pig man? He would sound like this.
But
Wah!
you always are trying to,
Gratuitous oolong plug.
like, you will be asked to do a lot of different characters and things that are making strange sounds, strange languages that don't exist, but also in the translation department, they have people who work very fastidiously on that. But
I love it that you use the word fastidiously.
But when you work on some of the recording, they will have time to edit scripts that aren't fitting if some things are running long. There are different ways they can adjust a script if they find words being reused, things like that.
I would also say that pronunciations are very difficult at times because the majority of us don't speak Japanese. So to get the correct pronunciation of using, I'll just use an example like Ganzu Tarukane. You need to know how to say that because you or 20 other actors in that show are going to be saying that name a lot. And if we're not all on the same page, it's going to be a hot mess at some point. And I think as a director, I shared this in a panel the other day, directors, that's why they're so key in getting their stuff together, solidly before you start recording anything, because they need to be able to say, okay, this is the pronunciation, we're all on the same page with it, from the writers down, producers, and then, because I've had situations where I've had to go back along with those other 20 actors who, except for maybe the last one, number 20, they finally nailed it, and now they have to call us all back in for pickups to redo those lines.
Right.
And that's just a logistical nightmare, and
Especially if you have actors out of town and stuff.
oh
You
yeah,
come back for
if
one
Meg's in
word.
Houston
Yeah.
and she's got to come in, for
Well, it
a
depends on
one-line
how many
pickup.
times I've said it wrong. Because if it's like enough that I have to come in back in for like an hour,
Yeah.
do it. But it's
We need
pain.
you to come in for an hour at 5 o'clock Houston traffic.
Brilliant.
But
I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
a lot of these fantasy animes, or some of these animes have countries with made-up names that you are trying to base off what you hear in the subtitled version, but you may suddenly, the director may be like, scrap that, we're changing the pronunciation of the main character. Sometimes they may change a character's name altogether.
Yeah, I think it's really important to note that a lot of people are like, oh, why did they translate this? Why did they change this? One of the things you have to remember is that all of our translation is done here. So we don't have, they don't translate it for us. We have our own people who translate it. And there are some jokes that just don't translate. And you have to find some sort of medium. It's like when somebody makes a joke about traffic in Japan, you have to compare it to quote unquote rush hour here, because they don't use the term rush hour over there. Like, that's not a term. So jokes kind of have to change like that.
And their rush hour also is mostly bikes.
Right, bikes, and then also like getting shoved into subways and
Right.
stuff. And that is a real thing. I was in Japan and I was like, oh man, does those things ever happen where it's all like, oh, I fell against you, I'm so sorry. I was like, that would never happen. I went there and I was holding on, and I was getting pushed in front of this guy, and this guy was reading his book, and he was like, and I was like, it's me. I'm the person who's like assaulting somebody else on this train because
Don't you
somebody
know who I am?
Don't you know who I am? But it's important to note that, and there was something else that I was going to say about it. Whatever, I'll think of it later.
There's a lot of things in the Japanese culture that are really hard to translate, especially if people say like senpai or kun, or
Yes.
how they refer to each other in terms of endearment or conditional class affection, and there are a lot of different styles of that, and how you put that into the English or what you finally decide. Some people are very particular on the wording. They will say, why in the translation did you change this one word, or things like that. But there's so many other factors at play that really, a lot of times when you're recording, that is outside of your control. Never have I been acting and been like, you know what, in the subtitle translation, this one word is different. I'm kind of worried about this. Because really, you are there to try to bring this to life, work with what the writers have provided for you, trust the director's vision. But ultimately, there will be difference because these are different languages, different cultures, you know. So there will always be minor differences.
Yeah. Great question. All right. Anybody else? Anybody have anything?
I can add on to that. Here, hold on. So here's a good example.
You think?
In Love Chinubio and Other Delusions, there's a catchphrase in it, and whenever Rika's about to like go full Chinubio and start pretending to fight somebody, she says, you know, be banished from this world. Turns out the Japanese were trying to say banishment this world, and it came out as banishment. So we thought it was banishment the entire time until they wrote it down in like the opening credits, and we were like, we've already recorded 2 seasons of this. And we just kind of stared at it and we're like, now we're committing to banishment this world. Because there was nothing we could do at that point. And since they don't give us anything written, there was no way we could have known, because we're all doing it by sound, and it's a professional translator doing it, so it's just mispronunciations of English. What do you do?
We need to start dubbing more Russian shows.
Yes.
I want to see how that goes down.
That'd be great.
I've always wanted to dub some of in a different language, you know. But
Like dub our stuff in a different language?
Yeah. But that would take a lot of work for me to
I mean, well, first of all, you'd have to learn the other language.
Right. But, you know, once you learn 7 or 8 different languages, you would be set. You could be like,
that is very true.
Once you get a part, you could get on the horn and be like, I also do this in
French.
Cantonese.
Cantonese.
Well,
That's,
I have a question for you, Brad.
okay. Hi, I'm Brad Jackson.
What are some of the shows that when you were in your formative years that left an imprint on you, either TV shows, cartoons, anime, comics of any fashion that influenced some of your flair?
What flair?
You know, your artistic flair.
Well,
your
I mean,
journey.
I do look like Chunk from the Goonies this morning, so... yeah, Truffle Shuffle. So, I grew up... my formative years were the Stranger Things era, right? I was going to the Palace Arcade. I mean, I remember playing tabletop Donkey Kong at Taco Bueno, like circa 1984, and drinking strawberry Fanta, and anything that was Steven Spielberg. I mean, E.T. was my jam. I just Indiana Jones. In fact, I just Jaws. You know what? I'm a total wuss when it comes to scary movies.
No way.
Yeah, my 15-year-old is way into horror films right now, and it freaks me out. I hate haunted houses. I scream like a child, like a
I hate
high-pitched child too.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah, well, I always get on those photo grab cams With me like leaning
Yeah.
to all of my friends, hysterically bug-eyed. I don't like that they march you through so slowly and you're just at their mercy to pop out at any point.
I remember I used to love Scooby-Doo, you know. Those voice actors, I mean, like Casey Kasem. Casey Kasem, America's Top 40 Radio Countdown. You know, I mean, he did all these great characters, and he did like 15 of them. You know, he was acting with himself, you know, so often, and I just always loved that. The old, you know, the old Warner Brothers cartoons. Yeah, I mean, Goonies for sure was. I mean, Goonies when it came out, man, I was done. You know, the 30th anniversary of Burton's Batman just happened, like 2 weeks ago, and I did a post.
Is that Nipple Clooney?
Yeah. No, that's Michael Keaton.
Oh yes, okay. I don't remember which one it
And
was.
Michael and Jack.
Yeah.
And I remember, I made a post about it. I was at a toy convention, and somebody told me, had mentioned it. They were pushing their Batman stuff because of the 30th anniversary weekend of that. And I remember that weekend in June, in 1989. And I remember how long that line was to get into, because it was like the first big, you know, comic book comeback. It's what all the Marvel stuff has been, right? And I remember just thinking, my dad took me to see it. He fell asleep during the movie. Yeah, he was a good sport, and it shaped everything about it. I mean, Danny Elfman did the music. Did the soundtrack, and then Prince did the soundtrack. So that was unheard of, that there was 2 soundtracks, you know, that were released. And listening to that soundtrack, especially the Danny Elfman one, I was just like, this is like a circus meets.
Good old Oingo Boingo.
Yeah. Don't run away. Yeah. So that's. What about you?
What about you?
Me? I would say that. Okay, so I'm a really big fan of like directors rather than like series. So if like they're doing like a Harry Potter movie series, like if I only like one of the directors, like I'll only watch that movie on repeat basically. So like I really like Quentin Tarantino, and I'm a big fan of the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
So, oh my god.
Let me see.
Like there's Burn After Reading is great. Oh Brother Where Art Thou is genius. There's just so many really, really good ones out there. Of course, I love, you know, Spielberg, you know, Jaws was a really big one. And my mom doesn't like scary movies. So, like, I was all like, Silence of the Lambs. And, like, she would never let me see it. So I didn't get to see it until I was, like, way older. Because she was like, don't play that in the house. That's creepy. But I was also, like, even when I was young, I was, like, really into, like, really like good actors, because I was sitting in front of the TV and a commercial came on for The Mask of Zorro, and I was over there and I was like, oh my gosh, he's just so great, blah blah blah. And my mom was like, who are you talking about? Are you talking about Antonio Banderas? And I was like, Anthony Hopkins. And she was like, what is wrong with you?
You got daddy issues. What's up?
What?
I'm sorry, I said that came out of left field.
I mean, you know.
Anthony Hopkins is sexy though.
Yo, he is.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman in The Professional.
Gary Oldman, forget about it. I mean, he's amazing.
He's
Yeah.
stunning.
Fifth Element,
Oh, God, so
great,
good.
great film.
So good.
They need to turn that into a musical.
Right? Put Marcus on
A
it.
rap musical.
A gangsta rap musical.
Put
No, they
Marcus
need
on
to
it.
make. I saw a post about The Fifth Element as an anime with some stills adjusted to an anime format. They look really good.
I really think Marcus needs to write a musical with all the ABBA songs that isn't Mamma Mia.
No, I'm working on a Meatloaf musical.
Oh, there you go.
Meatloaf Power Rock. Batman musical.
And I will all. she brought it up. Marcus can drop some knowledge about ABBA.
It's good.
He is.
It's good.
Well,
It's
I'm well
scary.
versed on ABBA. I'm a big ABBA fan. You know, I like all kinds of music, disco
I do too.
especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, some movies I saw when I was growing up that were excellent. Snow Day. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's a Nickelodeon movie. It's got an orange cassette tape.
Yes.
That's good. That's an intense movie about what do you do when you have a full day of freedom. You pursue love lost. you
So good.
And they battle the evil snowplow man. I also saw the Pokemon movie in theaters.
Yes.
The first one with Mewtwo, and they showed that Donovan role.
Yo, I
And we were like,
cried.
what is this Pokemon that we have never seen before, and it's not in the game? So I was like, this is crazy. I also saw, when I was around that same time, good movie, but underrated, the Digimon movie.
Oh, I never saw
Where
that one.
the Digimon like takes over all the internet, destroys people's health care, bank account. He is just cannot be stopped. And like all the Digimon who are trying to mess with him are just they're laid to waste. Except for there's this other Digimon who no one wants because he is weak. But surprise, he has like some crazy link to the creatures able to defeat it all. But I used to go watch tons of cartoon series, go comic book shops. Of course, the arcade. Anime I was big into the animated classics. Whenever they show Midnight Movie of like Akira or Steamboy, anything like that.
Okay, so did DDR come out
Oh, I
while you
love
were in school?
DDR.
Oh man, because that like first came over like when I was still in like middle school or early high school. So like that was a huge thing. Like I had friends who were like in competitions and like competitive DDR players.
Yeah. So there's a lot. I like the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons, Parts of the Dark Water, SWAT Cats, all of those things.
Definitely, yeah.
They were great. Yeah. Or Biker Mice from Mars, Bucky O'Hare. I was big into like parroting voices I would see
Oh
in
yeah.
the show.
Yeah, I mean that's how that's what you did. That's how I knew, I wanted to do that.
Of course, Dragon Ball. I was watching Special Beam Cannon.
Yeah, it's so strange to think that now there are parents, who have kids that are getting into Dragon Ball, that were young, that were your age when we first started doing it, and now they have, so it's become a generational thing, which is that's really cool. That's one of the coolest things is kind of passing that love for the series on, and it's certainly been a good thing for the franchise.
Oh, Power Rangers was a big one on me.
Hey, did you see the new Power Rangers movie?
I did
No.
not.
You didn't? The newest one? Anybody? Right? It was good.
Whoa.
I enjoyed it. Now, I was not a Power Rangers guy. I kind of missed that because I'm 900 years old. But
Well, we'd like to open up to any questions. If there are now any questions, or we're gonna. Yeah, it's right there.
What's expected of you in a demo reel?
Oh, in a demo reel. Well,
go ahead.
Well, there are several different kinds of demo reels that you may put together. For example, you may have one for narration, commercial, industrial, and then you may have character game reel. Like that would be something you would use for anime characters or video game characters. But there are different styles of voice acting required for each of those things. For example, if someone wants you for a luxury car commercial, you're going to want different material than like, aha, now I have found you, I'm going to cut you in half, or like all the things you do in these anime. What's happening to my body?
It was me the whole time.
Like, so you,
Yeah, you don't want Oolong selling you a Bentley.
yeah.
You're gonna love it. I swear.
So you're trying to put these things together that are like of 90 seconds in length, 1 minute to 90 seconds. Keep in mind that you want to put your good stuff near the front, have a few different slots, a few different spots. You may have 10 to 15 second spots where you could record that on your own. If you listen to a lot of commercials, you can write down phrases and then you can put them under music and put together a reel.
and that's, I mean, he just, I think technical-wise, you need to pull material that fits that time frame for each individual type of thing that you're trying to convey, whether it's a luxury car or an anime character or selling, Orville Redenbacher's popcorn, whatever it is, you need to have that material picked out. You just lift it from a commercial, right?
And then adjust it.
And then adjust it. And then the best ones are going to be fully produced. They're going to have, music underneath. They're going to be nicely cross-faded into the next one. The more professional you can present it, the better the chances are that it's going to get, heard and taken seriously.
Yeah.
Once you're in the business, that's the thing is if you're not in the business, professionalism and consistency and tenacity, just keep going after whatever that thing is that you're trying to get breakthrough on. Once you're in the business, then it's a little easier because they know who you are, and so the audition process becomes less of an audition process and more of an availability process, and you just start networking and meeting people, and you say, are you available? I've got some stuff I think, that might be good for you. Come in and you play around and see what happens, but yeah.
But you would still put together a reel from your work that you would, so like let's say you work in Funimation quite a bit. You still want to put together a reel of that material for your character in game. You want to keep all your reels separate. But for when I do anime character reel, I will lift it from things I have done where you can download the audio of an anime, rip it, go to the frames where you were in, cutting your sound out. Have a lot of different characters that way. That's really...
What do you use to do that?
So there are programs. So if you type in how to lift the audio of an anime...
That's great. I'm learning some stuff.
On YouTube, there's a program you download. You can put in the file of any video and it will just lift the audio. Then it would be on me to be like, oh, I really like this bit I did from 18 minutes and 30 seconds to 40. Then I would go into the audio in Audacity. Audacity is a program that you edit your audio files on. It will have the whole bar of the audio there. You'll just snip that out. If you want to put music under your commercial reel, there's a great way to get public domain music. There's a lot of sites with free ambient sounds of different styles that you can find. And that's what I've used for most of my reels. And there's a lot of great videos and tutorials you can see on how to do. It's very easy to do fades with Audacity. You just highlight a little portion and click fade in or fade out. And it just takes a little work and investigating, and you want to get some technology to be able to record material at your house and some software to be able to edit it. But if you want to work with people who don't know you from a different town, it's good to send them a reel. That will show them a good range of what you can do for them.
We had another question over there.
Oh, I want to ask, what was your most memorable or funniest line that you had to record?
Most memorable moment to record, or
line.
Or a line.
How much time do you have? Well, I would say that the one after all these years that keeps coming up, and there was quite a bit of controversy, I guess, was the King Cold line. And it was pretty simple, but it was more about his voice. That what is Goku? Chris Sabat and Chris was directing at the time, and I got called in to do King Cold, and we were just playing around, and I decided I was going to make him very foppish and sort of like, would you like to go have some tea? And he loved it, and we kind of went with it. And so what is the Goku? And like people came and kind of got into an uproar a little bit about that. Like, why does he sound like a British butler, you know? and the honest answer is because it made Chris Sabat and I die laughing. So it stuck.
I can't think of like something that's like super memorable. I mean, other than like leaving bombs for other people, or like, so if you didn't know, sometimes we'll leave bombs for each other in the booth. So what a bomb is basically it's.
I've walked into those booths before.
It's an inappropriate line that just is right in your face. So you're about to say something super serious, and there's just like, bam, line. So like. In one episode of Love and Shooting You Beyond Other Delusions, Rika is sick. And she's in bed. And I come in and I'm about to say, I'm feeling a little better. And like, so the cue line was supposed to be, how are you feeling today? And Leraldo laid down, have you pooped today? And we had to have a break after that because I couldn't work for like 5 minutes.
Have you had a poop today?
Have you pooped today? What?
There's love in that.
There is.
There's concern and love.
Yeah. He said it with so much love in his heart, and I was like, Geraldo. I definitely texted him afterwards, and I was like, oh, good one. Nice.
What about you?
Well, I had a lot of great, memorable moments doing so many characters, but I would say some of my most memorable moments were when I felt pressured and auditioning and for a good franchise. Because after you are working your way up this mountain, they're not like down the line saying, you know what, we should make some room and give Marcus a great part. They already have many talented people who they can consider for their parts. You know what I mean? It is up to you to convince them with your own ability and your own working relationships. But when you have the opportunity, I auditioned for Dragon Ball Super. And spoiler alert, I ended up getting the part. But when I got the audition, I was super worried about it. And I had a tip off from my friend who was like, if this part comes up, you should really try out for it. And I got the audition sent to me. I knew I had to spend extra time on it. There are auditions I get that, you know, as we get hundreds of these characters for different video games and things, you can record them in like 10 minutes. Because you're only sending in a few lines that they send you. You only have 4 lines to say.
If that. I mean,
right.
I've had stuff that's like 2 or 1.
They may have 4 lines and 2 of them are punches and stuff like that.
Right.
Attacks, or they will.
Yeah, the attacks are...
You have a little description that, like, from someone who wrote up this prompt that's like, this character is a tough guy or a smooth talker, or this, that. So you have just a little bit to go on, and sometimes they may tag a video reference that you click on to hear what ballpark. But when I was working on the Dragon Ball Super auditions, I wanted it so bad I spent like 7 hours on it in my closet. And then when I listened to it, it did not sound very good to me. And I actually called my friend in the middle of the night and went to his house. He used his stuff and like re-recorded all the stuff again.
I've done that.
And like, there's no guarantee you're gonna get into this, but like literally 3 days later I got a text that was like, we'd like to see you for Dragon Ball Super. I was like, oh, that is a prime example of why you need to answer the call. But it's very memorable to you when you are trying hard. It's more memorable than some things that you have recorded that, you know, you're like, oh, that was a funny line, but really there are certain moments you remember, you're like, oh, that was good for me.
I'd also suggest that what you shared about just giving it your all and doing everything you can to make it the very best, that's just good life advice, right? Whatever field of work you're in, or just being a human being, you know, just give it everything you've got and love each day, you know? I mean, I don't want to turn this into some hippie love fest, but, you know, and that's what it's about. And if you can't do that, then get a character that just shows up for 20 years.
Well, because really it is about, we are trying to work together to bring this vision to life, and you need to be an approachable person that can collaborate with, that can take criticism,
Oh, yeah.
that can...
Because if you're a nightmare to work with in the booth, your shelf life is going to be very short.
Right.
If you are rude to the engineers, you will be out on your butt quicker than you can imagine. Because look, these engineers, that's like Chewbacca and Han Solo, They don't do much of the talking. The entire thing is run by them.
Yeah.
And like, there's times where the director, every take, they look at the engineer like, that's it. And like, that means faster, quicker, just some lines.
Faster, quicker, funnier.
Or like, yeah, mainly the engineer is the one who makes everything all work out. If it's too quiet, he can fill it up. And like, if they tell you something like, oh, didn't work, then if you are snippy with the engineers, or anyone, you have to treat everyone with the utmost respect.
Always remember your engineer's name.
Because
that's good.
It's important.
if people want to have you back to work with you, then, it helps. If you are a nice person, that goes a long way to when they want to recommend you to other people, Yeah. And we'd like to take any other questions if you have any questions. Yes?
Thank you for your time. I had a question. Do you do most of your recording at Funimation, at the actual recording studio?
Yes. Yeah.
Very rarely have I ever source connected. Like, I'm in Houston and they've been like, hey, we just need one line. Go over to After Hours. He's one of the people who has Source Connect in Houston. But for the most part, they want you there. So they don't want people constantly out of town. They want people in the studio.
And so a lot of the material that they have, there are a lot of security rights things involved. We don't get the scripts in advance. You don't even know what episode you're working on with these directors. You have to sign, you cannot post things you're working on until they come out. There's a lot of rules that you have to follow.
Disclosure agreements.
And so they want you to be there because they also don't want all the files floating around. It can be difficult to keep, they want to keep everything in one place the best they can. There are ways and under circumstances. But mostly, if you're recording at home, this could be auditions or different things like that. But most of the time, you have to be in, because you're working with the director too. Even if you can get some things done, you have to have that person-to-person connection to be able to make adjustments. But yes, thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Well, I had two questions. Will you be signing anything afterwards? And what life advice do you have for people? Can you hear me okay?
So we'll.
I have to go directly to the airport.
She's got to fly out. Are you signing after?
I am having a signing after this.
I think we're at 1.
I'm right after this.
I'm at 1.
At noon.
Across.
I was at noon.
Yeah. So.
I must fly.
So yes, except her. And then, did you say life advice?
Yeah. Is there anything you guys won't do or live by a certain philosophy?
I mean, I just try and be as nice to people as possible because there's so much bull bleep in the world that there's no reason not to be civil to people.
Yeah.
There's really no room for it. There's no point in that kind of negativity. So I always try and think by those kind of standards of just be kind. It doesn't cost anything.
Well, if you look at just how fast this weekend has gone, I mean, I've met so many incredible people. And really, it's about how you can connect with other people and make a memorable or lasting experience. Yeah. And even though we were only hanging out a short time, and the other people I've met have been really cool. And unless you put yourself into it, you won't get a lot out of it, So you have to always be approachable, be yourself, find ways to reach out to others, and make a connection.
And I would add, that's great stuff, and I would add to that, when you screw up or when you fall flat on your face, which you will, Dory has it right. Just keep swimming.
I fell on my face at the rave when I was pushed into the center of a big circle. There was a huge ovation because I was doing some great moves. Then I tried a risky move and I fell right on my face, and it got even a louder ovation than my moves that were going well.
Of course, everybody loves to see people fall.
And, yeah.
But then
so
you nailed it the second time.
I did nail it the second time, but then it was like, oh, what happened? You know, what happened the first time? But also, when we are doing these conventions, it is an incredible culmination of what we have worked on, you know. Because there's a lot of things that go into how you develop your path, or what opportunities are available to you, and what they cost you. You know, because it can be arduous to work your way through the system and to find a spot on the train and just hang on, because really it is barreling through, and there's so many projects and there's so much stuff, and if you're not available, you'll be left behind. But it's really, once you are on, it's just really incredible ride. But how we have developed the products we have worked on, the relationships I've made that will last the rest of my life, an incredible work experience from things I wanted to work on since I was young, you know.
Right. And what you want to do right now is not going to be the same thing you want 20 years from now. You know what I mean? You as a human and as a person and a complete being are always developing, and what you think is really, really important, you know, at this moment is not going to be the same thing a year to 10 from now. And just whatever you do, you know, you just give it your all, and
Enjoy now.
Yeah, and be kind in the process, right?
Don't live in the future, don't live in where you hope to be. You just live in the right now and trust that you will find your path. Because really, if you spend your whole time thinking about, oh, I wish I had accomplished all these things, or imagining the life you want to live, you will miss out on the life you are living. You know, and you have to trust that yourself is enough. That your experiences are valid, and that you deserve to have a lot of fun and enjoy.
We also talked to a lot of people this weekend about the other guests. As artists, you know, I don't know how many of you are artists or have, you know, but you have different interests, and sometimes those interests require you to have, you know, a day job. And, you know, we all do a lot of stuff. It's not just one thing. You know, we're not Robert Downey Jr. all the time, right?
I'm a part-time beekeeper.
Yeah, like she does some really cool stuff with her family's farm, and you know.
I do some teaching as well. I do a lot of teaching.
Right, and I do photography, and I work in the recovery industry, addiction recovery industry. So
it's really important to note that, like, even the most used actors can't only rely on just anime. There's always something else going on as well.
Yeah.
And that's something you should need to go in knowing that that's a thing.
You would never make it on just anime. I mean, you would need the main part, hundreds of hours, every single time.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing with animes, once I record that character, those are done. And they never need me to re-record that stuff again, unless it's like one line. So if I do a whole series of this one character, once that is in the can, I mean, I need a new character. You know what I mean? Like, you can record a whole season in a few hours now. I mean, depending on what the deal is, or how little characters, when you take all of your lines out of a show and do them one at a time, you'd be amazed at how few there are. You know, when the show has all these characters, they're spread out in a way that, you know, all the characters seem like they have a lot of lines, but you really can go through a bunch quickly, or, you know, if a show's multiple seasons, that can be really great, but you have to do other things because once you do those hours,
that's it.
Yeah.
you know,
There's no residuals in the anime industry, so it's just not a thing.
unless you do an appearance, and then it's like these parts that you have done are paying dividends again. They come to life when you get to meet people who want to share an experience about one of the shows you have done, or someone who is a fan, or because that's something you don't have in my plays. I do tons of plays. I've done.
Yeah, we do
I
theater
direct,
as well, so.
do a bunch of. I just closed with Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. In a play, you never have someone come up to you 3 years later. It's like, oh, that play you did so great. We're still watching it. But you'd be stunned at how people bring up these old DVD jackets of stuff I have done years ago. And they're like, this was great.
Oh,
I get so excited about that stuff.
Me too.
I'm like, how did you find this? How did you know I'm in this? You know, and yeah.
In the theater world, you know, there's kind of this saying of, well, there's when the show comes to an end, everybody's sad, but we always say, don't worry, there's another show. You know, that's not always the case in the recording industry. You know?
Yeah.
So you give it everything you got, and then,
Your best ability is availability.
Yes. I also think it's important to remember that no matter how confident like everybody seems, we always have down moments, and there are going to be downs in your career, because even if you're going up, there's going to be a point where it's not going to be the same. You're not always going to keep going up. So it's really important that it swings back and forth. So the pendulum swings back and forth.
You have to sit and watch all of your friends get good parts while you're getting done. So unless you're ready for that,
That's so
don't
hard.
get into acting. But then you get a part as well. I mean, it's like this all the time, where you're trying out and everyone is trying out. So guess what? Only one person out of all of these people trying out. And this list is lengthy. And they are all seasoned professional killers who want their parts bad. You know, so it's like, but then it's a great compliment to all of our abilities, the amount of parts that we have been able to do. And yeah, there's a lot of work to go around as well.
we have just a couple more minutes. Questions? Yes, sir.
With, of course, your voice being, I guess, the most important thing within, you know, for recording, what has been your best way of keeping your vocal cords in tip-top shape?
Singing.
Quitting smoking.
What?
No, that's an honest answer for me.
Well, if you're going to do something that's a lot of duress on your voice, you want to drink a lot of water. I mean, we do a lot of shouting and different things like that. Or we may do, so, you know, he does Oolong's voice. That may be very strenuous to do that for an 8-hour session. If you're doing characters with crazy voices, you may try to break that up.
Smite was the worst. Every time I went in for Smite, I got a panic attack.
Right.
Because it was such prolonged attacks, you know,
Screaming.
and just over and over and over. And I would have to take pretty, you know, lengthy breaks just to kind of hydrate and, you know,
Honey really helps with that.
spray the throat, and just deaden it, and then just go back in and say a prayer and hope for the best. And
They have this black syrup thing at Funimation and at Okatron that it's in this Asian bottle, and it's like a ginger honey
opium.
It comes out so slow, and it is all
That's how they
black.
keep
I'm
everybody
serious.
going. They
And
drug
we
it.
just pop it in our mouth in a spoon and like let it slide down your throat. In Dragon Ball, a lot of shouting. Like what my character, a lot of shouting, power-up attacks, or getting attacked, or they will play the tape and they will be like, just make a lot of attacks as this is going. Normally in anime, they will break down every single swipe on the script, and like some of the Okatron is like, we'll just fight to picture. And that's what they'll just play, and you're just like,
And I love those sessions when you just do it to picture, and there's a little more freedom in that.
But yeah, you have to take care of your voice, because definitely if you're going to be shouting or doing a lot of different characters, want to be resting, drinking water, all that good stuff.
Breath support.
Okay.
Yes.
Back there.
What's the hardest part about acting?
Wow.
The hardest part.
The hardest part about acting.
Doing it right.
I would probably say the rejection is the hardest part. Because every day that I don't hear something, I know somebody said no to me.
Yeah.
Because I send in auditions all the time, and every time I don't hear back, I know it's because I wasn't the one for the role. And knowing that is really difficult.
I would say when the play is over, I get really sad.
Yeah.
I would say yes to both of those things for sure, and then I would also say the grind of it. And by that I mean you spend a lot of time in your car, you spend a lot of time to and from, everything's spread out, you've got 4 different jobs that you're trying to get done that day, and then you're trying to be on time everywhere and not sweat like a pig, and be kind to everybody, and
you have auditions to do and stuff to print out. There's a lot. So yes, the grind, that stuff is terrible.
That's awful.
It's just it can be taxing.
It's defeating sometimes, because if you don't, oh man.
The hardest part about acting is deciding that you want to do it. And go audition for a play, man, and go do some acting, and you'll love it. And then you'll know why, and you keep doing it. And the hardest part is quit.
Yeah.
I guess. The hardest part is quit, because here I am. I did all plays grade school, all plays high school, still doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, did you always wanted to voice act?
I'm not gonna lie, I got into college and I love animation and voiceover. I've always been a huge fan of how that entire process works. I never thought I would get in. So I was going to school for theater and directing, and I majored in theater and directed plays. And one day for our midterm, my teacher brought us in and we all had an audition, and that was our midterm. So we got an audition at Sentai Filmworks, and that was our midterm. And the deal was that if they saw anybody they liked, they were able to call them, and basically he'd make sure we would go and make sure we had availability to go to the sessions. So that ended up working out for me, but I really thought, because it's so hard to get into, that I would just be a stage actor, because I was already in that world, and voiceover, everybody wants to do it, and they've got a lot of people in there, and it's very hard to get your foot in the door.
Same thing. I was in school for theater. I never thought I'd do voice acting. I didn't even really, think about it. It wasn't a big deal to me. And that was in the 90s. I mean, Funimation
had paper scripts.
Think
about that.
Chris Sabat was pushing record, on everything. And he came to my college campus. He was at UNT at the time. And he and I were first few hired, and I always wanted to be a stage actor, I always wanted to do musicals and theater, and so the voice acting was just gravy. It was an amazing, circumstance.
I'd always loved Dragon Ball Z, Yu Hakusho, all that, Wolf's Rain, Samurai Champloo. I was big into anime growing up, wanted to do anime so bad. When I finally met people in anime, I was desperate. And I just shamelessly harangued them to get me in front of anyone or invite their director friends to our plays, which they did. I would also tell people I can't do this play unless you know someone at Funimation who can help me out. They're I don't know anyone over there. I'm well, that's not my problem, buddy.
Make it happen.
Well, all right, last question, because we do got to wrap it up because we're at time. Yes, you.
Can anybody voice act? I mean, how do you start?
Come to a panel about voice acting and also watch some of the videos on how to begin to record your demo reels, things like that on your own.
Yeah, you need to put together a demo reel and then start sending those to various organizations.
We'll take your question, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yes.
How many characters have you played? Like, how many characters have you voice acted during your career so far?
It's a lot.
Over 140.
Really? You know that number?
Well, I know in over 140.
I know I'm over.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
All right. Yes, you, right there.
Yes. Hold on, in the red.
In the red here in the front.
What was your favorite wish for the Dragon Once?
The underworld.
Wishing everyone back to life, Bergamo and all of them at the end of the tournament.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, that's all the time we do have for today.
Thank you guys so much.